Inspector Summary Video. We're here in Easton, Pennsylvania. This fire escape here has a couple of issues as we get into further detail. Can't have any ACs in the window because this blocks the clients from getting out. Now they can have an AC inside their building, but it has to be one of those floor-mounted units that blow through a tube out the window, or in a, they can make a hole next to the window somewhere that has a blowhole similar to that of a dryer and blow it out that way. But this is illegal. Anybody gets hurt on the inside, it's a high liability for the client. All the railings tying back to the building, these can't be loose. These must be tied back in. We got original hardware in every connection, so I want the structural connections on the corners to be done. Change the bolt or reinforce this. It's actually faster to change these two bolts out, and both top and bottom and in the corner. These railings right here, these bars, they don't need to be done. As long as they hammered and tested and they're in good condition, those are minor structural, not considered part of the major structural. This midpoint post needs to be reinforced with rebolt, reinforcing it with an additional bolt, or change this bolt and the bottom bolt out, whichever is faster. Same thing that happens on this corner. So all railings always have the same issue. Make sure you tie it back into the building. Make sure that the bolts top and bottom are redone. Bolts on the corner are redone. Bolts on the corner are redone. The bars do not need to be redone unless they're loose for some reason. They either need to be rebolted or they cannot be re-welded. The issue being this fire escape is older than 1978, so right off the bat, this fire escape, in order for you to touch it, can't be welded. It has to be all bolted connections because of the lead content. The EPA does not allow anyone to weld on a fire escape that is older than 1978 and has lead. And this fire escape is older than 1978 and has lead. A lot of it is the lead-based primers used prior to painting. This fire escape should not be painted white. It should go back to black. That'll help hide a lot of this surface rust that will occur year after year. Going down the stairs, what we have is all these stairs need to be rebolted. The reason being is that it's a bad design on a lot of these stairs, and what occurs is the rust gets into the little groove over here. So that little groove collects rust and it starts accumulating rust after rust, and as we go down we're going to see big evidence of rust accumulation, and that rust accumulation has eaten all the bolts. Every single one of these bolts is square heads. They're 50 to 75 years old and unverifiable. Basically you have a choice. You can put a new bolt in the middle of the two, or take out the two bolts and clean any rust on this side, change the bolts, and then when you're done, I need this not only primed and cleaned prior to putting this back in, I need it then sealed with silicone so that the water that comes down here will go away. That's a proper repair on anything. The stringer connections on this one up here are, again, our original hardware. Unverifiable. I either need a new bolt here, or I take these two bolts out, whichever's faster, and that will verify. Clean out all that rust, and then I need it rebolted, sealed with silicone. Connections back into the structure. Those connections back into the structure. I need every one of those. Those are all square head bolts, and there's evidence of rust growth. They're all unverifiable now, so if the bolt is identified to be good, then reinforce it with a new bolt so we can prep it for a load test, or you can change the bolt if it's faster and just put in a brand new bolt there, and that basically gets refurbished. And a lot of times it's recommended that you change bolts out more than reinforce old 50 to 75 year old bolts. But every case is unique, and sometimes reinforcement is better and faster than changing a bolt out. But let's talk about these platforms. Every one of these platforms, aside from changing, this is considered part of the major structural. A lot of these have these little flats, and these little flats have little pins. These pins are rivets. So a lot of them, once you clean this up, there's no rust growth of any kind, but some do have rust growth. Whenever that happens, you got to take out the pin and put in a new bolt here. But if the rest of them are clean, then good, and after that you should seal it, especially up against the building. Up against the house, you get all kinds of material and debris that gets in there. You should seal the building so that water doesn't get back into that building, because that's a known area for debris, bird poo, leaves and stuff, and that's caused huge rust and huge damage into this property. This other side needs to be done immediately, just exactly like that. That's all original hardware there. Full paint job going down the stairs now. Mid-post rails, change that bolt, change that bolt, change that bolt. All the 100% of the treads need to be rebolted. You can't keep any of these treads. You keep the treads. No, you can't keep any of the bolts. Loose rail. Over here, there's a block here. Get rid of this, or create a gate system here so that these people, in case of an emergency, they can get in, and firemen are no longer blocked from getting in fighting this fire. There's a question as to whether this deck needs to be inspected or not. Currently, this inspection does not include the wood decks. We're only offering opinions in that this deck, they look to be you know, I'd say 20 years old plus, and they either need to be restained, and some of the connections need to be secured so that this fire escape, just the wood side of it, needs to be guaranteed so that there's nobody going to fall off this building. I would stain it so that you can get another 5 years, but this property's got 5 to 10 years left before they have to replace these decks. Again, major paint issues. Again, must be a licensed renovator to touch such things. This is a great situation here with a pop rivet to show you just exactly what happens. These things, this is what happens. They move around. This is all that rust that grows inside there. So we now on these, if the rivet is good, it stays. If the rivet is bad, change it out and put in a new 3/8 bolt or a 1/4 inch bolt, whatever is the axle size. But this is from damage. Bolts missing in the corner. Again, railings are loose. So everything must be tied back in, and you need to get access for firemen and for people. So put a gate in here or get rid of this at this point right here. Just cut it right here. Create a nice transfer. It's not too bad of a trip hazard here, but it's, you know, probably a 4 to 6 inch transition here. So a lot of times what you do is you shorten it up so that the gate is only 24-inch gate. That's all you really need, just 24-inch gate on here. Looking from underneath, you can see some of the superstructure and some of the way that things are tied back in. This house is through bolted back in, and you can see the evidence there of the through bolts. They look like they're in good condition, but that also needs to be verified. But the great thing about this particular fire escape is that any reinforcement doesn't have to be done on the inside because it has legs to the ground. That means all we have to do is make sure that this thing is properly lag bolted into the building, so there's no need for full verification of the inside plate, because you can lag bolt if you see any issues on this particular fire escape. You can see all the rot, that if you don't seal these from above, they rot from underneath. So this whole area along the wall here needs to be sealed. After repair, you got to seal it so nothing gets back in there and sits there and accumulates and rots over time. So a lot of times these fire escapes also have an issue with some of the footings that they sit on this roof. So I'll check that in a second. I'm just going to mark this to make sure nobody gets hurt. So I have to mark that particular piece. It's going to get repaired during the emergencies. Again, that will be a trip hazard. So just got to be careful of that. The fire escape is being maintained right now by Fire Escape Services, doing an emergency repair that came in on a call. Now, look what's going on here into the superstructure. This whole building is actually, the fire escape does not rest on the roof. The wood roof does land on there, and this wood does land on the roof. So, but again, this is not an inspection on this, but this again is another 20-plus-year-old deck. I recommend that you get some stain on this, and I recommend that you highly make sure that everything is secured. A lot of obstructions, including AC units as well as satellite dishes, and these satellite dishes are some